A while back, I made a serious boo-boo and I exploded this cover on the Mark IV R32. Now I did get a replacement diff and that is somewhere, but I got another diff, which is right here, and it looks way better. So in this video, we're gonna be installing the Wavetrac limited slip in the rear diff, and I'm gonna be doing it on the bench. But if you're feeling spicy, froggy, I don't know, you can do it in the car. This differential lives right here in the back of an R32, and it should probably be pretty similar in the TT. We have our axles, we have our diff housing, we have our Haldex, and then you can see this is our prop shaft that connects the bevel box at the transmission to our rear, I guess you probably would call this an all-wheel drive unit. I mentioned you can do it in the car, and I truly believe you can. However, I think you're probably gonna have a better experience doing it out of the car, especially if you end up taking all the measurements that you are supposed to take at the end. This is one of those jobs that you can easily just take part out, put part in, but I highly recommend, one, downloading the repair manual for how to do this. Irwin VW, 40 bucks, one-day pass, download everything. Literally, download every single thing you possibly have time for. Two, the tool selection is not gonna be crazy, but there's some stuff that you're gonna wanna see. I'll show you that in a minute. Three, this can be really easy, but it could also not be easy, so you really wanna make sure you pay attention to the repair manual so you don't do a dum-dum like I did a dum-dum, because there's a hidden snap ring that if you don't know it's there, we're not trying to explode it. So here's the tools you're gonna need to do this job. Your mileage may vary and you might need a couple of other hand tools, but this is the bulk of what you're gonna have to have. A drain pan to catch the fluid, a 17mm Allen to take the drain plug out, a seal remover. You could probably use a screwdriver if you don't have one of these, snap ring pliers, a hammer of your choosing, a seal installer, various assorted 13mm, a torque wrench, a number 8 triple square. I used this wrench not as a wrench, but as a bar to help remove the axle flanges, and of course some liquid moly gear oil to fill the differential back up. You're also gonna need to get underneath the car, so jack stands, working safe, you guys know the drill. All right, our first thing we need to do is make sure this thing doesn't have any fluid in it. If you're doing this, you wanna drain your fluid first because otherwise you're gonna make a mess. I'm guessing by how loose this drain plug is, which is the one on the bottom, you probably already got fluid out of it. Now, while I drain this fluid, let me tell you why you may want a limited slip and why I'm putting a limited slip differential in. Think of it as 3 different types of differentials. First one, welded diff. That means these 2 axles will turn at the same speed no matter what. Great for something like a drag car. Horrible, well maybe not horrible, that may be an exaggeration, but not ideal for a daily driving situation. What'll happen is if these can't turn at different speeds, every time you take a corner, the car's gonna chatter and kind of bounce around the corner while it attempts to grab traction. The next kind is an open diff, which almost every differential in a non-performance car is. That means these can turn independent from each other at any old speed, no matter what. The problem with that is, one wheel is always gonna have more resistance to turn than the other one. This side won't move. This side will just spin and spin and spin, kicking up gravel for days while you probably don't really go anywhere. The solution to both of those problems is going to be a limited slip differential. It's the best of both worlds, right? In certain conditions, it can mostly lock both of those wheels to grab full traction in the right environment. But it also does allow the wheels to turn at different speeds when you're going around a corner. Remember, when you're going around a corner, the outside tire has to turn faster than the inside tire. The goal for this turbocharged R32 is to put 500 horsepower to the wheels, which means the engine's gonna be producing, I don't know, 560, 570, something like that. The limited slip basically allows these two to be locked together so that we can rotate both tires at the same time, putting that horsepower into the ground. Now, I've never actually had the opportunity to drive an R32 or a TT with a rear limited slip. So this is gonna be a learning, fun experience for all of us. And I'll be real blunt with you, for most people that have a reasonable horsepower car, just stock horsepower, maybe plus 10, this may not be the best mod for you because this thing's like 1,200 bucks. But if you got a serious horsepower car, this is something, I don't wanna say you need it, but you probably need it. Now, we also have a limited slip in the front transmission. That's already handled, so this should be fun. This will be facing the front. The prop shaft bolts right here. This side, that's the back side as you're looking at it, driver's side. So you're gonna be kind of looking up, maybe this way a little bit. That's how you see the filter for the Haldex right here. We're gonna start on the passenger side flange. And my goal is to only take the passenger side flange off. We'll see if that works. I already showed you the tools that you're gonna need for this job, but what I will tell you is there's 150,000 special tools that the repair manual calls for, and we're gonna improvise a little bit. So to get these cups off, we're gonna take a bolt that's the same thread pitch as the axle bolt. We're gonna take a bar and pop the flange off. Pull this side off. What was holding this in is this clip right here. If you're doing this, just be prepared because diff fluid smells really terrible. Even when it's not cooked, it smells bad, but when it is cooked, it's real bad. Now, to prevent me from having the dum-dum that I had the first time I did one of these, we're gonna take this axle flange seal off. There is a snap ring behind it, so it is almost like a must-replace thing. With that axle flange seal out of the way, we can actually get to our snap ring. I'm just gonna put a little pink dot on what is to be the outside of it, so that when we go back together with it, we don't put it in upside down. We're gonna take our cover off. There's these 13s right here around the outside. You can actually take the bolts that hold the cover on. We can run these bolts in evenly, and what that'll do is that'll press the cover that way so that we can remove it. We're still splined on the other side with the other axle, so I am gonna pop that one off real quick. Same method as this side. It's almost identical. Then, when we take this passenger side cover off, our differential should come with it. Now, these two pieces are pressed together. This is the place where I've screwed up that cover. Be careful here, but this is the piece that we're about to replace with our limited slip differential. We got the clip out, so I shouldn't screw up again. But you know what? Never underestimate your own power to do something dumb. I should have known better when it exploded that it wasn't behaving nicely. This is what you're chasing. Just a nice, easy, cranky down with the press. There we go. One differentialtron pressed out. If you're going this deep into this whole differential of yours, replacing all this stuff may be worth it, especially if you had any kind of noise or anything like that. This was an unknown diff, so I'm just gonna leave it for now. We'll do a little hoping for the best, I suppose. I flushed out the bearing of any old fluid, grime, grease, whatever. We'll pre-fill it a little bit so that this bearing doesn't get dried out. Next step is gonna be taking this piece, pressing it onto our diff. Now, if you don't have a shop press, you probably could warm this piece up. You could probably put this piece in the freezer and it'll probably just drop right on there. I have a press, so we're just gonna carefully push this down, which should go pretty straightforward. God, I shouldn't have said that, but let's hope for the best. Usually with this kind of stuff, there's a distinct change in the feel of it when you get it fully seated. That's all she wrote, friends. We are ready to go back in. While I have this here in a nice, easy spot, I'm gonna go ahead and put this snap ring in because I don't wanna forget to put it in. Before I put this diff in the housing, I'm gonna pre-lube the bearing and the splines on the inside. May or may not be a necessary step, but I feel a little bit better about it. So all I'm trying to do is prevent that first bit of rolling from being a dry situation. Keep in mind, this fluid in the front half of the case is a different fluid than the back half of the case. If you get it wrong, bad things happen. I have a new seal for both covers, but we're only gonna replace this one since we didn't take the other side off. If you gotta get seals, the left side and the right side are different. The number you wanna pay attention to is this 434. That's the passenger side. For reference, the 433 number is the driver's side one. Because remember, driver's side Volkswagen, Audi, Porsche part numbers are odd, just like their drivers. I say that with love in case anybody's twisted about it. Couple of things to pay attention to. These splines go here, and that lives right about here in the housing. So this kind of goes like right there. So you're gonna have to line that up. Then you're gonna have to line the axle flanges up. But we're just gonna start them so they're all lined up, and we're just gonna tap it in with this block of wood and hammer. If for some reason you do end up having to use the bolts to get it in, just do this. A little bit of a tighten, and then go to the other side like you're torquing a wheel, a little bit of a tighten, and go real slow. Let's torque these babies down next. 25 Newton meters is the torque spec for these bolts that go around. Make sure you're going diagonal as well, just like you're tightening a wheel. Because it's gonna be a while before we actually get this kind of going, I'm gonna just mark these bolts so that I know I torqued them. Next up, axle flange seal. To be honest, I feel like I probably should have done this before I put the cover on, because I think it would have been a little bit easier. We want to make sure we get this thing in straight. So we have our little seal installer tool right here, and it's going to go on just like that. And we're going to tap our seal home very carefully. All right, there we go. We got that guy in. By the way, I think these are now like $50 for these seals. So if you don't want to replace both of them, I'm not even mad about that, but you do have to take the one side out to get that circlip out. For the passenger side, we want to make sure it splines in, and then we probably just tap this home. Already I can tell you, like, the resistance this gives is way more than the open diff had. Same thing for the driver's side flange, the long boy. All right, so I'm splined because you can see this moving right here in the front. Block of wood. There we go. So now look what happens when I turn one side. You see this other one moving in the same direction. But remember before I could really easily like go back and forth? Now I can do it, but it's a struggle. Now, if you're just doing the limited slip, you're pretty much done minus filling it with fluid, which I'm not gonna do. However, especially if you have it on the bench, this is the perfect time to do some maintenance. So we're gonna do the Haldex service as well. Remember, fluid in the front end is different than fluid in the back end. Party in the front, business in the back kind of situation. This is the Haldex filter. We're gonna take that off and swap it with a new one. And then this is the pump for the Haldex. We're gonna take that off and clean it too, because why not? We're right here. This is the tool you would use if the whole thing was still in the car to do the Haldex service. This should be pretty easy when it's out of the car. It's a little tricky when it's in the car. It's kind of convoluted to get to. I gotta tell you, I hate these little filters because look how tiny this thing is. That just goes back in just like that. So you need a 4mm Allen for these bolts here. Ooh, it gushed. All right, our fluid is dark. What we're actually looking for is that screen being full of metal. Now, because this generation has a filter, you don't usually get too much yuck built up in these, but it's always worth just a quick check anyway. If this were like a Mark 6, a Mark 7, this clogging up with metal is really common. I'm just gonna spend a minute cleaning this guy up and then we'll put it right back in. Our next step is going to be putting on the Haldex unit. Like, this is the actual controller. So this is the module, right? This is your all-wheel drive electronics module. It lives right here. The need to take this off is basically 0. This diff did not have a module on it. I'm pretty sure that's why Apex Tuning got this, was because someone needed a module. And so rather than like swapping the whole thing out, which why would you do that if you didn't have to, they just popped a modulator on it. Dunzo. If you did this in the car, you would have skipped all this stuff that we did up front, right? Your next step, fill fluid here until it starts to just barely trickle out. With the limited slip, that's the fluid you want. This cable right here goes up and over the top of the diff. You have your 2 vents, one for the Haldex, one for the diff that you gotta manage. We'll worry about those when we get them in the car, but really, that's pretty much it. I really like to have the car all 4 wheels off the ground, put it in first gear, and just let it roll for a handful of minutes. That's gonna circulate the fluid and whatnot, warm it up, double check your fluid level. You may need to add a little bit. There's a lot of crevasses in that limited slip that are gonna need fluid in it. Take it for a test drive, see how it behaves. The only bad part is, unfortunately, I can't put this in the car and show you what it does and how awesome it is because this car's in 100,000 pieces still. But once it's running, we'll be able to test all that out, and I think that'll be pretty dope. This series, as well as everything else Mark IV maintenance and related, I'll be sure to link that, as well as everything else you might need to do a limited slip differential install yourself, down in the description.